my name is Rachel Williams, and I am an international representative with the University of Kentucky. And because we're a smaller group today, we can be a little bit less formal if you like. I do have a presentation planned, but I am always happy to go off script and tailor this to what you're interested in and what you really want to learn. My plan for today is to kind of do a general presentation about some of the elements that are really important for preparing for college admissions in US universities. So I have some general tips, and then I have some tips for when you're planning on applying for. So those of you who want to start this fall and those of you to start next fall, like what you should be working on at these different points and what you should be focusing on. Obviously, we are also in a really unusual situation right now with the coronavirus and how this is really affecting all of our lives. I've been working from home. I haven't been traveling as usual, really staying in my house all the time for the past few months. And I know that there's a lot of uncertainty about how universities are reacting, how this might affect your plans, what the situation is like in the United States in general or the University of Kentucky, because it's really important to remember that the United States is big. So there are parts of the country that are harder hit than others. So I can share more about what the University of Kentucky is doing and what the situation like is here as well. If that's something you're interested in, I definitely want to hear from you. So, if there's something that you would like me to address, to talk about, even if it's not what I had initially planned, I am happy to talk about it in a general way or a specific way. I'm always love to hear what you're interested in studying. Often I can give you some more specific information about different programs. I'm giving a general presentation about admissions. I'm also obviously happy to talk about the University of Kentucky, particularly as well. We are a large university with over 200 majors, so we probably offer what you are interested in. But yeah, at any point during the presentation, feel free to write a question in the chat, and I'll make sure that I pause periodically to look for questions in the chat so I can stop and answer them if you do have questions. So as I said, I'm at the University of Kentucky. I'm part of the International Center. So the International Center is something that pretty much every university you are going to look at in the United States is going to have something similar. They might not call themselves the International Center, but every college and university is going to have some kind of unit, some employees who are dedicated in some way to assuring that international students have a smooth experience at their university. On my end, my job is really before you get to university, while you're applying, to talk to you about University of Kentucky and make the application process easy and smooth for you. After you enroll, we have personnel who are there to help make sure that your experience is smooth at the university. So every college or university is going to have something equivalent. They're going to have people who are there to help you before you get there, during the application process, and then after you get there. As I said, today I want to talk about admissions and tips for admissions into US universities. I'm going to talk about some general tips, and then I'll talk a little bit more about what are some specific things that you should be doing depending on what point you're at, how long you have before you plan on applying. And then we have a lot of time if you want to ask questions or to talk at all about the current situation. So someone did post a question about you already have a master's degree and is applying for graduate programs. So I really focus on undergraduate, but if you would like to get in touch with me, I can put you in touch with different graduate programs at the University of Kentucky, depending on what you're interested in. But for the admissions process, we are mostly going to be talking about undergraduate admissions and preparing for that. So the general tips I have to talk to you about for admissions preparation are the things that you probably already know. Grades, of course, are the first thing that a university is going to look at. They're going to look at your GPA to see how well you perform in classes. Standardized tests, of course, are the other element that everyone knows is really important throughout the application process. This standardized tests, on the one hand, there are the SAT or the ACT, which some universities require, some universities do not. And some universities, like my university, we do not require them for admission, but we do require them for scholarship consideration. And a lot of universities, because of the current situation with coronavirus, are changing that standard now as well. So there are those standardized tests to think about. And the other standardized test you'll have to think about is the English proficiency exam, which you will almost certainly have to take, whether you choose to take IELTS or TOEFL or the Duolingo exam. In addition to the grades and the standardized tests, which are the two things that people think about first when you're thinking about college admissions, there are also extracurriculars. Now, the importance of extracurricular activities really does depend on the university. Some universities look at a holistic application approach, meaning that extracurriculars are going to be more important. They're looking at the whole person, not just the grades, whereas some universities really are focusing on your grades. Any extracurriculars are a bonus, and they might particularly help you with scholarship opportunities, but they might not be as relevant for admissions. And the one thing that you will hear me probably say over and over during this presentation is being organized. Your organization is really important throughout the application process, especially if you plan on applying to multiple colleges. So for your grades, you want to think about the difference between a weighted or unweighted GPA. This is a term that you will see used a lot in college admissions. Most of the time for admissions, they are looking at your unweighted GPA. Weighted GPA means that if you take advanced placement courses of various types, you might get extra credits on your GPA, extra weight, as they call it, added to your GPA that makes it higher. But most of the time for admissions, the unweighted GPA is what matters. One of the most common questions from international students when they're applying to American colleges and universities is, well, how is the university going to know how to calculate my grades based on the education system in Kazakhstan, for example, or in my school? American colleges and universities, the admissions department always has people who are specialized in international admissions. So we have international admissions officers at University of Kentucky, for example. International admissions officers are experienced with getting applicants from many different countries, and so many different types of degree programs. Some people come from AP degree programs, like advanced placement credits. Some people do IB, International Baccalaureate. Some schools or countries might do A levels and O levels. These are just a few examples of the most common. But the important thing to really keep in mind is that we are aware. We know that the way your grades are calculated and the way your classes are structured is different from an American student, and that is taken into account during the admissions process. Different universities have very different GPA criteria. So it's really hard to say this is the GPA that you have to have across the board. That is something to ask admissions officers and international representatives like myself for specific universities, and make sure you do ask that question. Even if they don't have a specific GPA criteria, they can give you an average kind of figure. They can say, well, we don't have, a specific GPA that you have to have, but the average GPA for students who are admitted is this number. That's always helpful information to have. The other thing to keep in mind is that GPA for admission and for scholarships can be different. So if there are scholarship opportunities at the university or college that you are interested in, they might have higher GPA requirements than admission itself. So that's always something to keep in mind, especially if scholarships are really important for you and your chances of attending the university. With standardized tests, make sure that you check testing dates and deadlines. Again, right now, the situation is so different from normal that I'm going to say it's not something to really worry about too much. A lot of universities that usually normally do require the SAT or ACT have waived that requirement, meaning they've decided for a period of 1 year or period of 2 years, they're not going to require the SAT or ACT anymore, which is really, really great for students, especially international students who often don't have as many chances to take it. But definitely check testing dates and deadlines, because the situation with the coronavirus has upset all of these plans. If you are interested in university that still says they require the SAT or ACT, ask them. Find someone to email and ask if they're still requiring it, or if they're just suggesting it, or if they're not going to really worry about it at all right now. Because the situation is so different, always ask. And as I said, some universities don't require them. Many more universities right now don't require them. And some universities like my own only require them if you want to be considered for scholarships. As I said, you also want to think about taking your English proficiency exam, the TOEFL, the IELTS, or Duolingo. Duolingo, that's the one you should check to see if the universities that you are interested accept the Duolingo English proficiency exam. This is one we accept it, and we really encourage our students to take it for 2 reasons. One, it's cheaper. It's a lot cheaper than the TOEFL or the IELTS if money is a consideration. And the second reason is that right now you can schedule, you're doing it online and you can schedule it for whenever you want. So it is really easy, especially right now, to use the Duolingo, but not all universities accept that yet. I would say more and more universities are starting to accept it. But it's still not every university that's accepting it. So definitely check and ask if you are unsure. But I know the TOEFL is being offered online now as well, so they are making that easier. Because a lot of universities, as I said, are waiving the SAT or ACT right now, but I don't think you will find universities that are willing to waive the English proficiency exam, simply because that is such a measure of success for international students, to make sure that they're proficient enough in English to really succeed in their college education in the US. Extracurriculars. So sometimes these are important, sometimes these are not. They never hurt. It's never a bad idea to have extracurriculars. Why can they be important? They demonstrate some things that your GPA and test scores can't. If you think about it, your GPA and your test scores, they don't really tell admissions officers who you are as a person, right? They don't get a sense of your personality or things like that, your numbers on a page. And sometimes if your numbers are strong, that's okay, and that's enough. But sometimes you want other things to bolster the GPA and the test scores. And extracurriculars can show your consistency. If you have a few activities that you stick with, they can show your commitment, and they can show a little bit about your personality. So really quickly, some examples of extracurriculars are academic extracurriculars. For example, if you are part of a debate club or a public speaking club or any kind of math club, I know a lot of those exist. If you are a part of a sport, that's also an extracurricular, certainly, that demonstrates a commitment, going to practices, and being part of a team. Outside interests or hobbies that you are a part of, if you are part of some kind of club or hobby outside of school, that still counts as an extracurricular. And volunteer work. Volunteer work is actually one of the best kinds of extracurriculars to do. That's something that really does demonstrate not only your commitment and your consistency, but that you're thinking, of your community as a whole, more than just yourself. So any kind of opportunities that you have to do volunteer work is something that I would really encourage you to get involved in. My biggest piece of advice in terms of extracurriculars is a lot of students ask, well, how many do I have to have? And it's not about the number. It's about picking 1 or 2 that you enjoy and do well in and doing them consistently. It looks a lot better to have 2 extracurriculars that you do over a period of 2 years or 3 or 4 years than, right before this person applied to college, they joined 6 different things, right? So really picking something that you're interested in, that you genuinely have a passion for and can do well in, is also important with extracurriculars. Extracurriculars can also be important because they can, depending on the type of activity, demonstrate your ability to excel. You might be part of a debate team, and if you win a tournament, that's amazing. That's something that's going on your college applications. If you are applying to schools for theater and you are the lead in a play, that's something that's going to make your application even stronger. So these are the things that extracurriculars can do. Another common question from international students is, well, we don't have the same kind of extracurriculars that American students do. Is that going to hurt us in the application process? No, not at all. Again, remember that the admissions officers at universities who are evaluating your applications, they are familiar with the evaluation of international students. That means they realize that different countries and different high schools have different emphasis on extracurriculars and different opportunities for students to get involved. And so they are fully aware that the kinds of opportunities, the kinds of activities offered at American high schools are not necessarily offered, that they're just different, not better or worse, but there are different opportunities offered. That is 100% something they keep in mind, so it's not something to really worry about. Organization. This is something that I really will stress again and again. If you are applying to 1 or 2 colleges, it's probably not going to be that big of a deal. But if you are applying, a lot of students apply to 5 colleges or 6 or 10 even. If you are applying to multiple colleges and universities, you have to stay organized or you are going to miss important deadlines. You have to know your deadlines. Some of the things to think about: when are standardized tests offered? Again, that's a very different situation right now and constantly evolving. And this is something that all admissions departments at universities are fully aware of and understanding of. But the things that you really need to keep track of: when are applications due? And when are scholarship applications due? That is an important distinction. Even within the same university, there might be one deadline for applications, but an earlier deadline if you want to be considered for scholarships. For example, at the University of Kentucky, we are still accepting applications, meaning if you want to start in the fall here, you can still apply to do so. But all scholarship opportunities have passed. We have earlier scholarship deadlines than admissions deadlines. So that is certainly something to be aware of, don't assume that any deadline is the same. So you want to think about not only when are applications due, but when are scholarship applications due. If you are not sure of anything, ask. Please ask. We love to hear from students who are interested in applying to our universities, and we love to answer the questions that make it easier for you to apply, to be eligible for scholarship money and succeed. So don't hesitate to find, if you have not been in personal contact with someone from that university, find an email address on their website and get in touch. Even if you think, oh, maybe this is a silly question, it's not a silly question. We want to answer your questions. We don't want you to miss out because you misunderstood a deadline, or you didn't know where to find a certain document, or you weren't sure of any kind of instructions. We want to hear from you. We want to answer any question that you may have. Even if our answer is simply sending you the link on our website to the place where you can find the information. Never hesitate to ask, especially right now, I would say, when in terms of standardized tests and deadlines, a lot of things are constantly moving because we're trying to make it easier for students, given the situation with the coronavirus. So right now, especially, is the time to ask. It's the time to get in touch. And that is never going to be a bad thing. So that is my general advice. That's something that everyone should really be considering all throughout the application process. I can give you, I kind of broke it up by year in terms of where you are in the application process, what you should be concentrating on. So for students who want to begin in fall 2020, probably most of you have decided on your applications already, but there might be some of you who are doing last minute applications or who did not get into the school that you thought you would. or something like that. So there is 100% still the chance for you to apply to universities. Many colleges and universities still have open admissions. Given the current world health situation, admissions deadlines are being pushed back, and they're more fluid, I would say, than they have been at times. As I just said, ask questions, keep open lines of communication now more than ever on admissions deadlines and scholarship deadlines. Probably the situation with most universities is that you will have missed a lot of scholarship money, that most of it has been given out at this point, but there is no harm in asking. The other thing, is to make sure all of your documents are in order and ready to go, including any translations of your documents that you might need. So that's really the most important advice for those of you who want to apply for admissions in fall 2020. There's not much that you can do in terms of preparing your profile to be more attractive to schools. That work is already done. For students who want to begin in fall 2021, so who would be entering your last year of high school, fall is really the key time for you. Most priority deadlines are in early December. For example, at University of Kentucky, our deadline, if you want to be considered for all of our scholarship opportunities, is December 1st. So really do your research. Do your research on a wide variety of colleges and universities. Talk to current and former students, talk to admissions representatives, talk to academic departments, and I think a lot of what's going to happen in fall in terms of travel by universities and the kind of college fairs and university visits you would usually see, a lot of that is up in the air. So we don't know. No one knows whether I would love to be able to come to Kazakhstan this fall to visit, high schools and talk to people about my university, but we don't know if that's going to be possible. So a lot of universities are doing webinars. If there is a university that you're interested in, they're not doing any kind of public webinar or presentation. And I am sure that most people would be happy to schedule as one-on-one Zoom or Skype meeting with you. If it's a school that you are interested in, I've had students who've contacted me who've been interested in applying. They have questions, and we've scheduled one-on-one interviews where we can really talk about their questions. So you might be doing a little bit more of that and less of going to college fairs. Make sure when you're doing your research that you keep track of the universities you're interested in. Can you apply on the common application, or do you need a separate application? You want to narrow down your list. You don't want to apply to too many universities. It gets very expensive, and it also gets very time consuming. And as I said, you want to stay organized. Make sure you know when all of your deadlines are for admissions and for scholarships. Again, make sure that you have all of your necessary documents and translations. And think about what are the accomplishments that you want to highlight. Make sure that you are keeping a list of here are the things that are going to be important in my application process. Here are the things that I want these universities to know about me. Your academic accomplishments, any extracurricular accomplishments, and communicate with your guidance counselor, including your EdUSA counselor. Your guidance counselor from your high school and from Education USA centers are your most important resources. They can help you out with so many things that you might be able to figure them out on your own, but it would be a struggle and it would be difficult. Never hesitate to use all of the resources that are available to you. And really reach out to all of the people who want to help you and want to see you succeed in your applications. For students who want to begin in fall of 2022, so you have a little bit more time. You can do a lot of things like keeping your grades up. Your grades obviously are the most important element in your application process. So really start thinking early about that. If you're worried about your GPA and you need to raise your grades, figure out what you have to do that. Or if you are happy with your GPA, make a pact with yourself that you are going to maintain these grades and you are going to really keep up your hard work. It's always a good idea to enroll in advanced classes. That could be A-levels, it could be advanced placement classes, honors classes, depending on the system in your high school. What I really want students to keep in mind is you should not enroll in advanced classes that you do not feel you can be successful in. That's not going to be helpful to you either in the practical sense of college applications or in the more abstract sense of learning and benefiting from these classes. Enroll in advanced classes that you feel you can succeed in with hard work and effort. But don't enroll in classes that you really don't think that you have a shot in. It does not look good on university applications to enroll in these classes and then not to succeed in them. Attend college presentations and fairs. Again, as I just said, that reality looks a little bit different now than it did last year or even 3 months ago or 6 months ago. But there are going to be opportunities. These opportunities might be a little bit different. The opportunities might be things like you're doing with me right now, or as I said, scheduling one-on-one appointments with representatives from universities that you're interested in. Not only attend them, but ask questions. Ask them, well, what's special about your college or university? Or what programs are really good? Or I'm interested in studying, tell them what you're interested in studying. I'm interested in studying psychology. What should I know? Or what opportunities do you have in that field? Stay active in your extracurriculars if you're doing any extracurricular activities. In terms of your test preparation, there are a lot of different ways to prepare for the standardized tests like the SATs and the ACTs. I would say explore your options and listen to the advice of your guidance counselor and your EdUSA counselor on the best way to do this for you. There are classes you can take. Some people get tutors. There are individual studies that you can really do or group study. So figure out a way that works for you in order to really prepare for these tests. Taking the standardized tests early. And again, with the SAT and the ACT, the situation is a bit different now in terms of a lot of universities are not requiring those for the next few years, but they can still be important for scholarship consideration. But my advice with these tests is to take them early. This is good for 2 reasons. First, if you don't do as well as you would have liked, it gives you the chance to retake them if necessary. Or if you do as well as you liked, then it's something you don't have to worry about. It is something that is off your mind and taken care of. And again, communicate early and often with your guidance counselor, your high school counselor, and your EdUSA counselor. I can't repeat enough that these people are your best resources. They are going to give you the best advice. They can give you advice on so many things, not only general things like your grades, what you should be doing, how to prepare for these tests or study for them or schedule for them, but they can also give you suggestions of universities to apply to. If you are interested in going to university in the United States, we have so many universities. It can be overwhelming to look at them all and think, well, what makes them different? How do I know what is going to be a good fit for me? Your counselors can give you specific recommendations of, oh, well, we've had students go to this university and just love it. You should look at that. Or they can give you more general advice of resources to go to evaluate universities. So that is a really important step early on when you're thinking about it. There are a few common mistakes made by more than international students, American students as well, but this was a really interesting article that I read a few months ago about common mistakes made by international students. And the 2 common mistakes most identified are, first, not researching college scholarships or grants for international students. This is a huge one. There are scholarship opportunities at a lot of universities in the United States that are specific to international students. And there are some that are open to domestic and international students, but there are going to be opportunities for you. At the University of Kentucky, for example, we have 3 university-wide scholarship programs for international students. In addition to that, some academic departments have their own scholarship programs. So there are so many opportunities for you to really get some important money that can help you come to the university in the United States. Do your research. And again, the one thing that I'll keep repeating, ask questions. Email the international admissions departments at universities, ask them about scholarship opportunities, ask them what you need to do. As I said, sometimes all they might need to do is just direct you to the right website, but it never hurts to ask. The other big mistake identified is applying only to well-known US colleges and universities. So as I was just saying, there are so many colleges and universities in the United States that it's really hard to distinguish them. And there are a few name brands that everyone knows by their name. But this does not mean that they are the best fit for you. So here's a quote by Christine Chu. She was interviewed in this article, and she was the assistant director of undergraduate admissions at Yale University and at Georgetown University. And she says that brand does not equate with quality. And by doing so, an international student would be missing out on hundreds of US schools that offer amazing undergraduate programs and experiences, with dedicated faculty, abundant resources, and smaller class sizes. So really go beyond just the brand that you've heard of and do more research. Ask the questions about things that are important to you. And I think that you will find a lot more universities that really fit your needs and have programs that you are interested in. I will briefly address the current situation because of the coronavirus, and I can go into more specifics if you want me to about University of Kentucky or the United States in general. But remember, the U.S. is large, so some areas are harder hit than others. For example, where I am now in Kentucky, that our government here has done an excellent job of really keeping people safe and enacting measures very quickly designed to stop the spread of coronavirus. So remember that the situation in one part of the United States is not necessarily the same as it is in the whole country. As of right now, so that's something that you can always ask. Do some research about the geographic areas that you are interested in. As of right now, one of the biggest questions is, well, what is going to happen in fall of 2020? And what is happening on campus right now? Every university in the United States has finished this spring semester online. So classes have not stopped. Universities have not shut down. It's just switched to online learning. As of right now, universities are forming plans for a number of different scenarios in fall of 2020. None of us know yet what is going to happen. And the utmost importance to my university and to all universities is the safety and well-being of our students. So with that in mind, all universities right now are going through a really thoughtful process of, well, how can we give our students the best education while keeping them as safe as possible? For example, at the University of Kentucky right now, we have 3 separate plans ready to be put into motion, depending on different scenarios, on how we can offer in-person instruction and keep our students safe. That is something that I don't think that most universities will have an answer to right now. It is something that's going to be evolving throughout the course of the summer. The other big question for a lot of students right now is, how are U.S. universities accommodating the situations that arise because of canceled standardized testing? And I did address that. A lot of universities that did require the SAT or ACT are now going test optional. If the university that you are interested in has not made any kind of announcement about that you can find, ask them. Most universities do have announcements on their websites that will address some of the admissions changes because of the coronavirus. Another thing that a lot of universities, including University of Kentucky, are doing right now is we're giving a lot more students a chance to defer admissions while keeping all of their scholarships. So for example, we are allowing students to keep all of their scholarships, but if they don't want to start in the fall, they can start in the spring of 2021 or fall of 2021. So there are a lot more opportunities. You don't have to, if you've gotten accepted to the university of your dreams and you've gotten a great scholarship, but you don't feel safe coming right now, or you feel you might have a problem coming in some way, most universities are allowing the students the option to defer a lot more often. And again, if you don't know if the university does that, ask them. Don't miss out on opportunities simply because you haven't asked. So these are a couple of frequently asked questions, and I think I did address most of them. So do admissions use the same standards to judge American and non-American students? And that's something I've said several times. They do not. Every university does have admissions officers who are specialized in have been trained in international admissions. So they are not basing their admissions for you off of things that might not apply to your country. Another question you'll see often, so what is the difference between a deadline and a priority deadline? You often see, especially in terms of scholarships, priority deadline, December 1st. That means if you want to be sure to be considered, you have to apply by December 1st. If there is leftover scholarship money and you apply after December 1st, you might be considered, but there's no guarantee. So basically, always apply by the priority deadline to make sure that you will be considered. Who do I contact with questions? Should I email someone or try to figure it out myself? And this is something that I've been saying many times. Always contact someone, no matter how small the question is. Somebody is going to be happy to help you. Who do you contact? Well, if it's a university where you have met someone from that university, or for example, you've virtually met them. If you have a question about the University of Kentucky after listening to me, email me, contact me, and I'm happy to help you. If it's someone that you have not had a contact with them at that university, go to the website. Usually there will be an international center or international admissions page that you can land on, or just a general admissions email address, and email the email address you find there. Someone will get back to you, and if you did not email the correct person to address that question, they will tell you who to get in contact with. But especially right now, with a lot of admissions and things in a state of change, always get in contact with the questions. We are always, my colleagues, other universities, and we're always happy to help. We really want to hear from you and make things easy for you. One last question that's asked frequently is, what are holistic admissions when applying for colleges? Not all colleges do this. You will see some universities that advertise that they are holistic admissions. This means that they are not focusing exclusively or even mainly on your grades, that they're looking at everything. So an interview would usually be an important part for holistic admissions. Your extracurriculars are more important for holistic admissions, but they are going to look at all aspects of you as an applicant and not focus as much on your grades. That's it from me. I would love to hear if you have any questions or you have any comments. Please feel free to ask them in the chat. And while hopefully we have some questions, I'll leave this screen up. This is all the contact information for myself and for University of Kentucky if you're interested in asking me any questions or learning more about the university. But definitely ask me any questions that you have right now, specific or general, and whether they are to do with something that I've already addressed or something I haven't addressed. So somebody asked the question, what extracurricular activities do you think will be certainly noticed by universities? That's a great question, because not all extracurricular activities are created equally, and some are more impressive than others. So I would say the two that I would concentrate on in terms of, well, here are activities that look impressive. One of them is volunteering, and one of them is any kind of competitive academic activity. And they're important for different reasons, I think. So competitive academic activities, and that really does differ depending on not only your country, but your school and what opportunities. But a lot of schools will have like math competition clubs, or a debate team, or participating in an activity where you and a team from your school build a solar car, or a robotics team, right? And then go to competitions. So participation in competitive academic activities is really good, especially if you have accomplishments to list. If you and your team from the robotics club at your school won second place in a competition, that's excellent. That's something to highlight. Competitive activities can be important because they show that you have an interest. So if you are applying to College of Engineering and you're working on a solar car competition, that looks good as an applicant to an engineering program specifically. So they really show people that you are dedicated to your to what you want to study, that you are interested in it. The other type of extracurricular activity that I think is very important is volunteering. And again, we know that there are different opportunities for students to do different kinds of activities in different countries, and that's something that will be kept in mind. But volunteering is important for a number of levels. So first, it can really show that you are involved in your community, that you're capable of taking a leadership role in your community, and that you want to get involved. And that is always something that universities look for, especially scholarships too. So just to give you an example from my university, we have an international ambassador scholarship. This is a scholarship solely for international students, and part of the application process is an essay. And on the essay, we want to hear about what kind of volunteering have you done and what kind of leadership activities have you done, right? So volunteering is important for that. Volunteering can also, really show your commitment to certain academic disciplines, depending on what type of volunteering it is. And anytime you have the opportunity to take on a leadership role in any kind of club, an organization, that's going to be really positive. So I would certainly say that any kind of club, if you are the vice president or the secretary or a student representative, that's always excellent as well. So I would say 3. So competitive academic clubs, volunteering, and leadership roles in any kind of activity. Those are the things that are going to be really valuable as extracurriculars. Any other questions? So what are the most popular and strong majors at Kentucky University? So there are 2 questions. So I'll answer that first. So at University of Kentucky, some of our popular and strong majors, we have a lot of them. As I said, we have over 200. I would say some of our strongest and most popular majors, the College of Engineering is a top 100 program in the United States. And that is an excellent college, and we have a lot of different engineering majors. So chemical engineering in particular is very popular within the College of Engineering, as well as mechanical engineering. Beyond our College of Engineering, our healthcare majors, our pre-healthcare majors are very popular. We have, at the University of Kentucky, we have a medical school, dental school, nursing school, and a College of Pharmacy. So our pre-healthcare majors, for students who want to then transition into those colleges, are really popular, especially pharmacy. Pre-pharmacy is one of our strong majors because students have the opportunity to enter the College of Pharmacy after only their 3rd year as an undergraduate. And the College of Pharmacy at University of Kentucky is a top 10 program in the United States. So healthcare majors are also really, really popular and strong. And I would say the other ones that really stand out to me, psychology is a very strong major where a lot of students have the opportunity to get involved in research with their professors. Our College of Architecture is a strong major, and then some of our business majors. Those are the ones that we have a lot of wonderful majors, but those are the ones that really stand out to me as being popular with our students, and for the students being really, really happy with the opportunities that they give, not only for their studies, but for their professional development as well, and really thinking about, okay, how is this major going to help me prepare for graduate school and further studies? And then the next question, what qualities do you value more in students? I think that commitment and interest, showing that you are committed to your studies. Everyone thinks, well, it must be the smartest students who always get, the best grades or the most admissions. And I don't think it's necessarily the intelligence, but it's what you do with it, showing that you can be committed and really to what your studies and to excelling. and to being part of a community. And so how do we see those qualities? Well, one of the ways that I see those qualities as somebody who's kind of involved from the recruiting side and encouraging students to apply. And also, I would add, I'm on a scholarship committee. So I'm one of the people who's also going to be evaluating people for scholarships. I go to college fairs abroad and I will talk to maybe 100 students in a day. How do you stand out to me? How do you make me remember you? By talking and engaging, telling me about your interests and being able to talk with them. So I think what we value in a student is really a commitment to working hard and being able to communicate effectively about what's important to you. That's what's going to make you stand out as an applicant. How important is the recommendation letter? That really does depend. I think some of that is school dependent. What I will say at my university, the recommendation letter is most important in the scholarship consideration. It's important to a small degree in getting into the university, but then for the competitive scholarships, a letter of application is really important. It's something that we do very much consider. Does the University of Kentucky give full scholarship and also financial support? So the University of Kentucky does not has the opportunity for you to get full scholarship money. We do not have one scholarship that is a full scholarship. We have multiple scholarship opportunities, and it is possible to get more than one of these scholarships, and they can add up to a full scholarship. So that's the kind of financial support that you could get at the University of Kentucky. And then just in terms of financial support, you can also get an on-campus job. Some of our students do get on-campus jobs at the university. And sometimes they're even in things that are going to help advance your career. So they're not only opportunities to help you support yourself financially, but they're really opportunities to help to kind of advance graduate school applications or eventual job applications. What are you looking for from a recommendation letter? What we would look for in a recommendation letter is somebody who is very familiar with you in an academic sense. Very often, that's one of your high school teachers. We love to see a letter of recommendation from a teacher who knows you well, who maybe you've taken more than one class from. We also see it's effective to get a letter of recommendation from a guidance counselor. Or an EdUSA counselor who knows you well, somebody who's familiar with your record as a student, and who's also familiar with you as an individual, who's not only capable of telling us, well, so-and-so did excellent in my math class, but who can also tell us so-and-so is so engaged and so interested in their studies and everything that they do. So we really want a recommendation letter that can speak to you as a student and tell us about how you perform beyond grades. Tell us about how you are to be in the class. Are you engaged? Do you participate? Do you always show up on time and seem eager to learn? So somebody who can really speak to those qualities. Does the university have a co-op program? There are co-op programs. They're not university-wide, but within some of our departments and majors. So there are, for example, co-op opportunities within the College of Engineering, within the College of Business, and they have specialists who are there to help you get these opportunities. As an exchange year in the US can play a big role. I think that it mostly plays a role in not necessarily in admissions, but in getting proficient in English.
There is a program called FLEX. It's a State Department program, Future Leaders Exchange.
Okay.
I think that it can play a big role if students actually show how selective it is.
Yes.
Just to give some numbers, so like usually we have about 1,000 participants who come for the first round in one city. And from the whole Kazakhstan, only 120 students go. So just from like, let's say in Astana, we will have about 1,000 participants in the first round. and only 1 or 2 students are going to be selected. So it's like highly selective. Plus the students, they get so extremely active in volunteering. Some of my students I worked with, they had up to 300 volunteering hours a year. So
Okay.
actually really good, but they have to give context.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's because, yes, if you just say an exchange year, there are a lot of different exchange year programs. Some of them are not competitive. Some of them are simply, you know, paying for a year abroad. But a program like that flex year program that you just explained, that is such a competitive program, would be a huge plus. And I think that Roshan is right. You have to give context. You have to give a little bit of explanation. This was not just an exchange year I participated in. I was picked out of thousands of students who applied to do this. That is something that looks excellent on a college application. That's something that really shows that you stand out and that you're committed. So yeah, thank you for giving me that context. Yes, that is something you have to give context for and explain what that flex year program is and why it's so prestigious. In a general sense though, if you did participate in a study abroad that was not part of the flex year, that was another program, if it was a competitive program, again, highlight that you were picked out of however many applicants to be part of this program. But then also the intangible benefit is having lived in participated in an exchange year in an English speaking country is going to help you succeed because you have more experience speaking English and doing your studies in English. But for that kind of a program, the flex program, yeah, that's a huge benefit on an application. And that's certainly something, especially with like the volunteering opportunities. So that's kind of a leadership role. That's absolutely something that could be really important. Any other questions? No? Well, if any of you think of any questions after this ends, don't hesitate to get in contact with me. My contact information is up here. You can also look, I have the information for University of Kentucky. If you're more interested in information about University of Kentucky, definitely go to our website. We have a program where you can chat with one of our current international ambassadors to learn a little bit more about it. But for all of you, thank you so much for being here. And I hope that everyone is doing well and staying safe. And thank you, Roshan, for giving me this opportunity. I really enjoyed talking to all of you.
It was really amazing, and you gave so much information, and it was like really good that you actually explained it from your side. And I studied in the United States myself, and I would say that people who work in international admissions and who work in like international departments are the best support that international students can ever get. And I remember that on my phone, I used to call them as mom and dad because they were the first, like, #1 context.
Mm-hmm.
Love them so much.
And we do, and you know, especially, I always encourage international students who are applying to University of Kentucky to apply for our International Ambassador Program, because this is obviously, it's a great scholarship to get and a great program, but it also means you're working closely with us. So you develop relationships with all of us, and we are there for you to be your mom and dad in the US and to really help you out. But yeah, we love helping students, and we want to help you find the right fit.
And we actually had a great example. One student, he studies at West Liberty University. And, you know, it was like last minute decision. It was already summer, and somehow they accepted him and his documents. And after some time, he actually started working with admissions. I think that he's in some sort of like support for international students. And in fall 2019, he actually represented his school at our fair.
Oh, wow.
That's amazing. So amazing. And I was like, wow, you know, and he changed so much. And like, sure, level of his English and the way he was seeing some things, he was just a different person. So, and I was like, wow, he grew up, you know, he changed, and he's like
Yeah.
adult already, and he already had a job, and it just felt amazing. So thank you a lot for everything you're doing.
Well,
And
thank you.
thank you
We
a lot for
are so happy
participation.
to be able to communicate and connect with all of you. And it's a lot of fun for me too, in my house, to be talking to people in Kazakhstan. It's making my days more interesting now that I'm not traveling.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.